To obtain more notary knowledge, explore the full collection of books by Derek Spruill and find the perfect book for your notary business. Visit any online bookstore, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble Bookstore, booksofmillion.com, bookshop.org, Mobile Notary by DerekSpruill.com, or download from Kindle to obtain your essential notary book to help with all your notarization starting today.
Welcome to Notary Knowledge. This show is officially hosted by Marylyn and Eddie, and we are so glad you're joining us. If you are listening to this right now, well, you are likely an entry-level notary public.
Yeah, probably just stepping into the field. Or
Exactly. You're stepping into an incredibly vital profession, but you're also in that vulnerable phase. You want to avoid those early career-ending mistakes that can just derail your entire practice before it even takes off.
Oh, absolutely. And to help you build that rock-solid base, we're exploring a core theme today, which is Foundational Fridays, equipment essentials. Because honestly, the tools you carry, they dictate the quality of the protection you provide.
Right. And our mission for this session is to really help you transition your mindset. We want you to stop viewing a notary as just like a simple desk clerk and start operating like a fully functional, highly secure mobile command center.
A mobile command center. I like that.
It sounds cool, right?
Yeah.
But I do want to push back on that premise right out of the gate because, well, mobile command center sounds incredibly intense.
It does sound a bit heavy duty.
Yeah. When I hear that, I picture massive infrastructure. Imagine a paramedic jumping out of an ambulance to save a life, rushing to the scene of an emergency, but when they open their bag, all they brought was a single crumpled Band-Aid.
That would be a disaster.
Right. But why does a beginner who might just be doing, a few notarizations a week need to think about massive infrastructure from day one? Why can't you just grab a basic first aid kit, like just a pen and your stamp, and figure the rest of the business out later?
Well, I mean, it is a fair question. But if you show up with just the bare minimum, you are going to fail. You just are, because you're not prepared for the unpredictable reality of the environment.
Unpredictable how?
Because as a mobile notary, you are no longer sitting behind a controlled, quiet bank desk with a supervisor down the hall. You are operating out in the wild. You are walking into intensive care units, bustling airport terminals, remote construction sites.
Wow, yeah, you really can end up anywhere.
Exactly. And you are the physical defense against systemic fraud. The public trust relies on your absolute precision. So, without the right infrastructure from day one, you are incredibly vulnerable to procedural errors, lost documents, and severe legal liability.
So basically, the environment dictates the equipment. If you can't control the room, you have to control what you bring into it.
That is the perfect way to put it, yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So let's start with the physical anchor of this mobile command center, which is the bag itself. Because we aren't just talking about tossing your official seal into like a canvas grocery tote or an old gym bag, are we?
Oh, definitely not. The carrying case is your primary organizational tool. And it really serves two distinct purposes. First, it must be highly professional in appearance.
Right, because looks matter in business.
They really do.
Yeah.
If you pull up to a luxury real estate closing where clients are signing away literally millions of dollars, and you start fishing around in a disorganized, crumpled backpack for your seal, you immediately undermine the client's confidence in your authority.
Yeah, I'd be nervous if my notary looked like they just hiked the Appalachian Trail.
Exactly. They need to see a professional who treats their sensitive personal information with reverence.
So there's this psychological impact of presentation. If you look disorganized, they assume your notarization will be disorganized. But what about the functional aspect of the bag?
Functionally, it's all about protection and rapid deployment. It has to be ergonomic and durable enough to withstand daily travel. Internally, you need padded compartments for your technology and critically secure internal locked pockets for your stamps and your journal.
Oh, so a lock inside the bag.
Right. Everything needs a designated place so you can set up flawlessly in those unconventional spaces we talked about.
Speaking of unconventional spaces, I noticed our sources heavily emphasize something that seems almost too simple to even mention. Clipboards.
Oh, they're so important.
Right, carrying high-quality clipboards. But when I actually thought about it, it clicked. Because if you're doing a signing on the hood of a car, a flat surface is a luxury you just cannot guarantee.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the physical mechanics of a signature. If you're notarizing a power attorney for someone in a nursing home bed, or, executing a vehicle title transfer in a coffee shop parking lot,
Yeah.
you cannot rely on having a sturdy desk.
Yeah, you're balancing paper on a steering wheel or your lap.
Exactly. A solid clipboard ensures the document is fully supported so the signature is legible. If a signature is just this messy punctured scrawl because the paper was resting on a soft blanket, that document could be questioned or even completely rejected.
Man, a punctured document, that's a nightmare. So the bag and the clipboard form the physical foundation. But here's where we need to look at the speed of modern business. We are operating in an on-demand economy.
We really are. Clients want things done yesterday.
Right. So what kind of technological integration is required to keep up with that crazy pace?
Well, the modern mobile notary has to be entirely self-sufficient, and that means carrying portable printers and portable scanners.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop you right there. Because I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone who just got their commission yesterday. They're likely on a tight budget. You are listing portable printers and scanners, which sounds like, honestly, hundreds of dollars in tech.
It is an investment, yes.
So is this strictly necessary on day one? Like, why can't I just print the documents at my house before I drive to the appointment?
Look, I understand the budget concern, and it's a totally valid pushback. You can certainly start by printing at home. But you have to understand the risk you assume and the limitations it puts on your business.
Okay, lay it out for me. What's the risk?
Last-minute document changes happen constantly in real estate and legal transactions. You might arrive at a closing, and the title company calls to say, hey, we made an error on the closing disclosure. We need you to print a revised addendum right now.
Oh, wow. While you're sitting at the table.
Exactly. And if you don't have a portable printer in your car, that closing fails. You have to drive all the way home, print it, and then try to reschedule with the signers. It's a huge hassle for everyone.
Okay, yeah, I see how having the printer saves the entire deal. But what about the scanners? Why do I need a portable scanner?
Well, title companies and attorneys often require what are called scan backs. This means you have to securely scan and email the signed documents for their review immediately after the appointment.
Like before you even leave the parking lot.
Exactly, before you even drop the physical papers at a FedEx or UPS facility. They need to verify that no signatures or initials were missed before the funding deadline passes.
Okay, so if I have to email a massive encrypted file from my car, that means I need reliable internet. Which leads me to my next question. Can I just ask the client for their home Wi-Fi password or, drive to a nearby coffee shop and use their public network?
You absolutely should not use public coffee shop Wi-Fi.
Never.
Never. It is a massive security risk. You are transmitting highly sensitive financial data, social security numbers, personal identities. Public networks are incredibly vulnerable to man-in-the-middle cyber attacks.
Wow. So anyone could just intercept that packet of data.
Exactly. And that is why a dedicated mobile hotspot is crucial. It ensures you have a private, encrypted, reliable internet connection wherever you are. It also allows you to manage your online booking systems without relying on anyone else's infrastructure.
That is huge. Okay, so we have the documents securely printed and transmitted. But what about the people sitting in front of us? Because I know we deal with some incredibly sophisticated forged credentials these days. You can't just glance at a driver's license anymore and assume it's real.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
That is where ID verification aids come into play. A serious professional carries specialized UV lights and high-powered magnifying glasses.
UV lights, like a black light.
Yeah, exactly. Modern counterfeiters are brilliant at replicating the look and feel of an ID, but state governments embed hidden security features, like microprinting that is so small it just looks like a solid line to the naked eye.
Oh, and you need the magnifying glass to see the tiny letters.
Right, and they use ghost images that only appear under ultraviolet light.
So the UV light actually reveals the hidden layer of authenticity that the counterfeiters usually miss.
Exactly. You are the last line of human oversight against deception. And to run that UV light, your hotspot, your printer, your phone, and your laptop, you need robust power management.
Like power banks.
High-capacity power banks and dedicated vehicle charging systems are non-negotiable. Because if your phone dies during a full day of back-to-back appointments,
Oh, your GPS goes down.
your GPS goes down, your communication goes down, and your business effectively shuts down.
Man, that's a lot of tech to keep charged. I love the high-tech gadgets, but I want to highlight one specific pro tip from our research that just blew my mind, honestly, because it is the lowest tech item imaginable, yet it is brilliant.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. The flip calendar secret.
Yes,
The flip calendar.
it is an absolute lifesaver.
Right. The advice from the sources is to bring a physical desktop flip calendar to every single signing and set it right on the table in plain view of the client.
Just right there in front of them. Because under the pressure of a massive legal signing, people experience psychological friction. They freeze up and they forget the date. And misgating a document is one of the most common fundamental errors a notary can make.
And it has huge consequences.
Exactly. A misdated real estate document doesn't just look sloppy. It can get entirely rejected by the county clerk, holding up a multi-million-dollar closing. So setting a simple visual reference on the table entirely eliminates that psychological friction.
It perfectly illustrates how a tiny $5 piece of equipment prevents a massive procedural failure. It's really about engineering your environment for success.
Engineering your environment. I love that. Hey, before we move into some really intense hypotheticals about equipment failures, let's take a quick pause. If you are enjoying Foundational Fridays, Equipment Essentials, and you're getting value out of this, please take a second to rate the show, subscribe, and share this podcast with others.
Absolutely. Sharing helps the community grow.
It really does. And if you are serious about building your business correctly from the ground up, we highly encourage you to buy the Notary Knowledge books by Derek Sproul. Specifically, you need to check out the Notary Public Foundation, Essential Guide to Core Duties, Ethics, and Commissioning, and the Mobile Notary Blueprint. They are absolute must-reads.
They really lay out the whole framework. Highly recommend them.
All right, let's put all this preparation into practice. I want to throw a few hypothetical scenarios at you based on the factual standards required for modern notaries. I want to really test the bounds of this equipment.
I am ready. Let's analyze them.
Okay, let's do a segment called Good Question, What Would You Do?
Ooh, all right. Lay it on me.
Okay, scenario A. We have Tom, a notary out in Nevada, and he is rushing to a last-minute appointment. He realizes he left his high-quality pens on his kitchen counter. So he digs around his car's cup holder, finds a standard blue ballpoint pen from a hotel, and uses it for real estate closing. But the ink smears slightly on the paper when his hand brushes over it. What happens next? And to add a twist to this, what about Ben in North Dakota, who leaves his good pens in his car overnight in December, and the ink freezes before his morning appointment?
Well, both of these scenarios are a disaster waiting to happen. And it all comes down to the archival science behind ink.
Archival science, like museum stuff.
Kind of, yeah. Using a random pen from a car console is massive liability. The standard for notarial ink is strictly defined. It must be permanent, acid-free, instant dry, and waterproof.
Let's break that down. Why does it have to be acid-free? I think most people just assume a pen is a pen.
Right, but if you use a cheap dye-based pen, the ink is often acidic. And over a period of decades, that acid will literally eat through the paper fibers, destroying the signature.
Wait, it actually burns through the paper?
Over time, yes. Real estate deeds and trusts need to last for generations. The pigment base must be archival so it does not chemically degrade the document.
Wow. And what about the color? Because a lot of people love signing in blue ink, because it differentiates the original ink from a black and white photocopy.
Well, while some states allow blue, high-contrast black ink is the gold standard, and it's often a non-negotiable requirement for real estate. This is because county recorder offices do not have humans reading every single word of a deed.
Oh, they use machines.
Right. They use optical character recognition, or OCR systems, to scan and index public records into their databases.
So it's not just about aesthetics, it's about how a computer vision machine reads the document.
Exactly. OCR scanners use a thresholding process. They turn pixels either entirely black or entirely white. If the ink smears like with Tom in Nevada, or if he uses light blue ink that doesn't scan with high density, the OCR system cannot read the signature or the notary seal.
So it just looks like a blur to the computer.
Yes. Machine flags it, and the county will reject the real estate deed. Tom's use of a random smearing pen could literally prevent a family from legally owning their home.
That is wild. The consequence of a cheap hotel pen is a failed property transfer.
And what about Ben in freezing North Dakota?
Extreme temperatures can physically separate the pigments from the solvents in cheap ink, so even if it thaws, it loses its permanent archival properties and might flow unevenly. Your equipment must be professional grade and protected from the elements.
Okay, let's move to the physical stamp itself for scenario B. Dan, a notary operating in Michigan, arrives at a signing. He pulls out his standard, large rectangular stamp. But when he looks at the document, there is almost zero white space.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
It's so stressful. The text is dense, and the signature block is incredibly crowded. If he uses his stamp, it is absolutely going to cover up the signer's signature and some of the pre-printed legal text. What should he do?
Dan needs to utilize the concept of strategic redundancy. A mobile notary should never carry just one stamp. You must carry multiple notary stamps in varying shapes and sizes. I am going to play devil's advocate again regarding the budget, though. You are telling a beginner to buy 2 or 3 different versions of the exact same official seal.
Yes, I am. And here's exactly why the investment is necessary. The universal legal rule across jurisdictions is that a notary seal must be completely legible in its entirety.
Meaning every single letter and number has to be clear.
Exactly.
Right.
If you overlap your seal with a signature, or if you stamp over pre-printed text, you obscure the details of the stamp. That immediately invalidates the notarization because the receiving agency cannot read your commission number or expiration date.
So if Dan only has one massive rectangular stamp, he is physically stuck. He literally cannot complete the job legally.
Correct. But by carrying smaller legally compliant stamps, perhaps, like a compact rectangular one and a small circular one, he can strategically place his seal in tight margins without compromising the document's validity.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, spending an extra $30 on a secondary stamp saves a transaction worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Strategic redundancy. It makes perfect sense when you frame it around preventing failure. All right, let's talk about the nightmare logistics in scenario C. Bob in Massachusetts is running late, his bag is a disorganized mess, and when he gets out of his car, he spills his stamps, his journal, and loose papers all over the client's driveway.
Oh, that's mortifying.
It's awful. Meanwhile, Andy in Arizona finishes a successful appointment, locks his notary bag in the trunk of his car, and runs into a restaurant to grab a quick lunch. He comes back 20 minutes later, his trunk is popped, and his bag with his seal inside is completely gone.
Wow. These are scenarios that genuinely keep professionals awake at night. Let's start with Bob's driveway spill. We mentioned earlier that the bag is your mobile command center. A disorganized bag doesn't just look sloppy, it fundamentally destroys trust.
Because the client sees all their private info flying away in the wind.
Exactly. If clients see you dropping sensitive paperwork containing their social security numbers into a puddle in a driveway, they will immediately question your competence to handle their legal affairs. It leads directly to procedural errors and lost documents.
And Andy's stolen seal in Arizona, he locked it in the trunk, which feels like a reasonable precaution for a 20-minute lunch.
It might feel reasonable, but it is a catastrophic failure of duty. The notary seal is not just a piece of rubber. It is the physical, tangible symbol of the state's power and the public trust.
Right, because of what it represents.
It is the specific tool that authenticates identity and deters fraud. It must never be left unattended in a vehicle, even a locked one.
Because the risk of a criminal getting their hands on it and forging property deeds or powers of attorney is just too high.
Precisely. If a fraudster has your official seal, they can theoretically steal someone's home by notarizing a fake deed transfer. The seal must be stored in a locked, tamper-resistant carrying case, and it must remain in the exclusive, personal possession of the notary at all times.
So, by leaving it in the car, Andy failed his fundamental duty to protect the public.
He did. He opens himself up to severe civil liability and the absolute loss of his commission.
Man, it really puts the gravity of the job into perspective. We're talking about preventing identity theft on a massive scale. Hey, let's pause for another quick second. We've talked a lot about the physical tools today, but we've covered other foundational topics in previous episodes, prior sessions.
Oh, definitely. There's so much to cover.
Right. So if you haven't yet, you need to go back and listen to Foundational Fridays, The Anatomy of a Certificate, and Foundational Fridays. Verbal ceremonies and oaths. Those are just packed with crucial information.
They really tie all these physical tools into the actual verbal and written legal requirements.
Yes, they do. And to really master all these different avenues, you've got to check out Derek Sproul's 7-book compilation. It includes Notary Niche Navigator, Your Guide to Loan Signings, Apostoles, I-9s, and more. Grab that compilation to truly round out your expertise.
It is basically the encyclopedia for our industry.
It really is. Okay, so speaking of the specific rules governing these tools, ordering a stamp isn't just a generic process. State rules dictate the actual anatomy of the seal, right?
They do, and the rules vary wildly from state to state. You cannot just go online, buy a generic stamp, and assume you are compliant.
So what are some examples of how they differ?
Well, let's look at the contrasting examples from our sources. In South Dakota, the law requires the exact name of the notary, the words Notary Public, the word South Dakota, and the word seal within the border.
Okay, pretty standard stuff.
But crucially, South Dakota requires that there is absolutely no expiration date inside the seal itself.
Oh, really? No expiration date on the actual stamp. That feels completely counterintuitive.
It does, but that is their law. Now, if you cross the country and look at Pennsylvania, the regulations explicitly require the commission expiration date to be displayed either on or immediately below the seal.
Wow.
Right. So if a Pennsylvania notary used a South Dakota-style stamp, their notarizations would be deemed entirely invalid. You have to know the specific DNA of your jurisdiction's laws.
That is wild. Okay, so we have covered the physical bag, the archival ink, the physical rubber stamps, and the specific state rules. But the industry is evolving, and I want to transition to the digital frontier, RN, or remote online notarization.
Ah, yes, the digital world.
Because when you were sitting at a computer in your home office, looking at a signer through a webcam who might be halfway across the world, how does all of this physical security translate to the internet? Where is the locked carrying case? Where is the rubber stamp?
It is a brilliant question because the core philosophy of security remains exactly the same. Only the medium changes.
Okay, walk me through that.
In the physical world, your locked carrying case prevents unauthorized people from accessing your tools. In the digital world of RON, the equivalent of that locked bag is using highly secure, state-approved software platforms that employ strict multi-factor authentication.
Are you talking about knowledge-based authentication? Because I know that is a big buzzword in the digital space.
Yes, knowledge-based authentication, or KBA.
Can you explain how KBA actually works? Because sometimes it just feels like answering security questions about my first pet, which, honestly, anyone could guess by looking at my social media.
Oh, it is far more sophisticated than that.
Hey.
KBA pulls from decades of public records and credit bureau histories. It asks dynamic questions that a hacker wouldn't know.
Like what kind of questions?
Like, which of these 4 addresses did you live at in 2014? Or, what was the color of the Subaru you registered in 2018?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Along with forensic credential analysis of their ID, it acts as a digital vault door, ensuring the person on the other side of the screen is exactly who they claim to be before you even begin the session.
That is fascinating. It basically leverages their entire financial history as a lock. But what about the seal itself? If I cannot press an ink pad onto a physical piece of paper, how do I secure the document? What prevents someone from just using Photoshop to alter my digital stamp after the session is over?
This is where the technology becomes incredibly robust. The digital equivalent of your rubber stamp is something called an X.509 digital certificate.
X.509. It sounds like a serial number for a sci-fi space show.
I know, it sounds super futuristic.
Let's break that down. How does it actually work without relying on magic?
It relies on public key infrastructure and cryptography. Think of it like a highly advanced digital wax seal. When you apply your digital seal to an electronic document during a RON session, the X.509 certificate mathematically binds your verified identity to the specific code of that file at that exact millisecond in time.
So it seals the underlying data of the document, not just the image on the screen.
Exactly. The math creates a unique hash. If anyone, a hacker, a fraudster, or even the client themselves, tries to alter a single pixel, change a date, or modify a signature after you've applied that digital certificate,
What happens?
the underlying math breaks. The digital wax seal shatters. A bright red warning will appear to anyone who opens the file, stating that the document has been altered and the digital seal is invalid.
That is amazing.
It is arguably even more secure than physical ink, because the tamper evidence is absolute, immediate, and irreversible.
That is an incredible analogy. The technology literally shatters if someone tampers with the document. It perfectly mirrors the physical duty of protecting the public record, ensuring no one alters a deed after the fact, just executed through complex cryptography instead of archival black ink.
Exactly. The tools evolve, but the core duty remains exactly the same. You are still the impartial witness guarding the transaction.
Which brings us to a final, overarching thought I want to leave with you today as you build your business. We have spent this whole session detailing the complex anatomy of the mobile command center. You know, the ergonomic bags, the high-contrast OCR-compliant ink, the multi-factor authentication, and the cryptographic digital certificate.
All vital tools, yes.
But what if the most essential, non-negotiable piece of equipment isn't physical ink, a digital certificate, or a mobile hotspot? What if the most vital tool in your command center is your own unwavering vigilance and your commitment to continuous education?
I couldn't agree more.
Because a tool is only as effective as the mind wielding it. If you do not know the laws changing in your state, no digital certificate can save your commission.
A truly professional mindset is the ultimate equipment. You have to constantly sharpen your understanding of the law.
Absolutely. And if you have scenarios you want us to analyze, email your questions to Derek at dereksproul.com. We will try to answer as soon as possible at the end of our shows.
We love hearing from you and dissecting the real-world situations you run into out in the field, so keep it coming.
Credits. Exec producer Derek Spruill, lead writer Marylyn Trotter, graphics Eddie Montes Travis, music Thomas Bynum, produced by Magnificent Works Business Solutions.
Don't just be listeners of the knowledge, be doers of the knowledge.
This is Notary Knowledge. Until next time.
To obtain more notary knowledge, explore the full collection of books by Derek Spruill and find the perfect book for your notary business. Visit any online bookstore, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble Bookstore, booksofmillion.com, bookshop.org, mobile notary by derekspruill.com, or download from Kindle to obtain your essential notary book to help with all your notarization starting today.